Is the short answer. I think there's already quite a lot to cover, and I think at the moment, looking at the demographic needs that what we've picked up from the reports that we've got, obviously that the older population and health concerns that provides onto the NHS is a core component of what we're looking to tackle quickly and first. I think with young people, it's finding the right relationships and building that. So yes, we are. There are just some, and it's awful to say more urgent thing. We are looking at that again in terms of the holiday camp stuff. It was an interesting article that was in the news today. We're looking at how we do that. We're looking at funding potential options for next year in terms of what that looks like. At the moment, I can't kind of sit there and go, we're definitely doing this. We're looking at centres adopting a local school so that we go in and do various different bits and pieces. I know that in the last, and I'll get this right, in the last 2 weeks, it's been there's been Drowning Prevention Week as part of the RLSS campaign, and we've been in local schools talking to them about water safety, and when they've come into the centres to do stuff, engaging with what they do. But yes, there is more to come for young people as well.
So I think what I heard there is it's in the medium-term plan to engage with schools. It's not the instant thing because you've got other things you're preoccupied with. But I certainly will be interested to see how the age profile changes over time. Do you have that kind of information of the demographic and age profile of those residents and clients using the facilities at this moment in time?
Yeah, we do. As Duncan alluded to, the information that we gathered from the previous operator is only the people that were paying information. So one of the things that we've got is the Everyone Active card, where we're getting families that are signing up to that are not necessarily committed to a monthly membership. They may well come and just do a casual badminton session, which is that kind of theme that I spoke about earlier around the Everyone is Families programme that we've got going on over the summer holidays. At the moment, from the data that I'm looking at, we're getting about 700 people a month across Rochford signing up to that card. So we're building our database up so that we've got that ability to understand where customers are coming from, where we're not necessarily reaching a certain demographic, where we're not necessarily reaching a certain user group. And at the moment, we're 3 months in, so that database is growing. It's finding that time to make sure that we've got that insightful information in terms of what we can do in the longer term.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. And then it's the irony, isn't it? The hard to reach are the ones that are not coming and therefore hard to have the information around. So I'm just wondering, what is the method of seeking views and feedback at this moment in time from those that do use your facilities and those that choose not to use your facilities at this moment in time?
Yeah. So if I can take the answer in the ones that we don't use. So one of the things that we will do is that we'll work with the name escapes me at the moment, leisure database, where we will do a post-user survey. We will do a non-user survey. So they will actively go out and seek people in the local community that don't use the centres. They will ask questions in terms of why they don't. So we've then got that ability to identify those patterns. What we do as part of Everyone Active is that customers receive every 6 months a short post-user questionnaire in terms of their satisfaction of using the centre. We've then got that ability to break that down to look at satisfaction. We've also then got that ability to look at their usage levels to kind of see where we've got more penetration in certain levels. Using the moving communities and social value, we've then got that ability to see whether people are using the centres once a week, twice a week, and are more active, so that we've got that understanding in terms of where we're starting to hit more rich pockets of people being active.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for a pretty full presentation. Are there any more questions? Councillor FD.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. My residents are from Great Wakerin. What are you going to be doing to encourage people from Great Wakerin who don't have use of their own transport? Because public transport getting to Clements Hall and especially Rayleigh is incredibly difficult. I sort of remember in the contract there was some wording about how you was going to get out to the outer reaches, as I'd say.
100%. So we are actively looking for locations where we can set up sessions to do out into the community. So whilst we're acutely aware there will be venues that have got yoga, Pilates, keep fit sessions going on, we will be looking at making sure we don't want to take over what people are already doing. We want to complement what's going on into that community. But we will actively look at coming to places that are hard to reach. So that is on our agenda to come to Great Weekly. I can't sit there and say we'll definitely get to you by Christmas. I sound like I'm Royal Mail there, but we'll be in a situation that we're kind of aware of what we need to do. It's finding those locations. We don't want to step on the toes of people, finding that right activity, engaging with the right people and making sure that that can become a pocket of success in the local community.
Thank you.
Members, we have a question, I think, from Officer Mark Alders.
Yeah, it's just to raise the point around the hard to reach. So we are working with the Alliance, the Health Alliance. So there'll be a lot of sharing of data over the next year. So through that data, we will be able to see where locations, localised locations, where those that we most need to get to are. So therefore, with our partners, including Everyone Active, we can then target those areas to get them into some form of activity. But they're the ones that are probably lower income, isolated, etc. So we'll be able to pick that out from health data, and there will be a report coming to the Communities Board that will be around the health of Rochford. So we will see that towards the end of the year. So it will give us a good idea of where we might need to target resources for those that I call them difficult to hear rather than hard to reach. That means we find it hard to get there when actually we're finding it hard to hear what they need. So we'll get amongst them and find out.
Thank you very much for that clarification. It sounds like it's hard to reach, it's hard to get there, it's hard in many ways, isn't it? But just to encourage that, obviously, if we get children active at a very early age and encourage that effective partnership with schools, we are going to stop the health issues that creep up on people when they're inactive, sort of from their 20s onwards. So we need to set that pattern of behaviour and attitude to exercise as being something positive. So I certainly will be interested, as Vice Chair of this committee, of seeing how we are engaging with schools and the age demographic of how it changes over time.
Right. Members, no more questions? Now, I can give you some good news and some bad news. The live stream was playing up, and I was told it was working, but they would sort it out and upload it tomorrow. But we've now got the good news, it's now working. So that's cancelled that out, hasn't it? Thanks very much. Yes, you're quite welcome to stay and watch the whole proceedings if you want. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Members, item 6 is a verbal update on local government reorganisation from the Chief Executive, Jonathan Stevenson, and the Leader of the Council, Councillor Danielle Belton. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm going to caveat this with, as soon as I've updated you, it will probably be out of date and you'll need another update because it's a constantly moving piece of work. But I will tell you what I know. Now, group leaders were all briefed by me, or those that were able to attend were all briefed by me last week, where I gave a thorough update as I could at the time. And it's my understanding that all members have now had the opportunity to watch that meeting so they can see for themselves where we are. And the reports from Grant Thornton have also been circulated to all members over recent months. There was the original piece of work and then the piece of work that was commissioned by this council and by all group leaders prior to the annual council meeting. And obviously we have full council next week where we also have a report coming forward and we will be debating. So it's an interesting time to give you an update because there's already been multiple opportunities, but I will go again. So the current position is we have Southend City Council leading a group based on 5 unitaries. So this is 15 councils in Essex being condensed to 5 councils. That is the model that was supported by Rochford District at the last full council meeting when it was debated. It got through marginally. But one of the recommendations that was originally on the report but was subsequently removed was that within that 5, Rochford wouldn't necessarily be partnered with Southend and Castle Point, that we would look at other configurations of a 5 unitary authority. However, there is no other configuration of a 5 unitary authority. That is the model that has been adopted by that group of councils, and that is the model that a business case is being formed on. So if Rochford continues to support the 5 unitary model, we are continuing to support a model where we are partnered with Southend and Castle Point. Some work was done under the Grant Thornton piece that we commissioned that did look at some other 5 unitary authority configurations, but actually they didn't stack up as well as the one that the group at Southend are pushing. So they're leading that. It's not their business case, but they are leading on it. You then have Essex County Council leading on what was a less than 4 unitary model. So they were originally called the less than 5, so 2, 3 or 4 unitary councils. They have now settled on pursuing a 3 unitary authority configuration. Now, as part of our Grant Thornton work, there was a map in there that was favourable if we were going to support a 3 unitary. And that was the one that many members had implied that they would be more favourable to, the Mid-Essex option. But that was map 3.9. Essex have subsequently come out to say they are looking to pursue, and this is what I mean by it's ever-changing. A week or so ago in the press, they were pursuing 3.2, which was one version of the new make-up. They've now changed and they're looking to pursue 3.4. 3.4 puts us in the same configuration that 3.2 did, and I'm sorry this gets confusing and arguably boring, but it's relevant. 3.4 would see us partner with Southend, Castle Point, Thurrock and Basildon. Now again, that is not something that particularly appetises many members in this council based on the conversations I've had cross-party and also the debates that we've previously had. Aside from that, there's always been the option that we can put forward our own version, our own business case, and indeed other councils are still looking at doing that. There are some councils that haven't made their mind up, Thurrock being one. Braintree also said they're still sat on the fence as to what they want to do, and we are one of those as well. Although we've signed up to a 5 unitary, it was loosely signed up to it, and I've been attending all meetings so that we can keep fully abreast of the options that are available to us so that we can determine what, if any, business case we want to support. So some key dates. We have full council on the 22nd, as you know, next week, where a report will come forward and we have the opportunity to make some recommendations and try and focus what we want to do as a council. The 16th of September is our extraordinary full council meeting, which is when we as a council will decide what we are prepared to support or not, as the case may be, what our business case preference is. And then at the end of September, the actual submission goes into government. There will be one submission that goes in from Essex, so not Essex County Council, but Essex, the geographical place. But that submission can have multiple business cases within it. At the moment, we know there will be at least 2. It's my expectation that there are going to be more. That is where we are in terms of the kind of the matter of fact position. There's lots of other things that we can talk about in terms of the detail, the chapters that are being written, the specifics, but that's kind of where we are in terms of a position. My hope is that as a council, over the coming weeks and months, we can get to a point where we are all in agreement on what is best for the residents of Rochford. This is a big decision. It's probably the biggest decision we are ever going to take as councillors. It's once in a generation. It was 50 years since it was last done. And I hope that we can get to a position where we are in agreement on what is best for this district and the future of it. So if I leave it there for now without getting too further into the detail, Jonathan may want to add some more context and happy to obviously take any questions, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Belton. Have you got any questions? Councillor Hoy?
You knew it'd be me. Thank you very much, Chairman. Sorry, it's not going to be too bad, this. Yeah, thank you for that. I think it's a very honest summary, from my understanding. I did have a briefing yesterday from Essex County Council, and Kevin Bentley, Councillor Bentley, the leader of Essex, has sent round an email today confirming that Essex is doing 3.4, so there's no question now. And I know there are people in that room Conservatives included, who were quite unhappy that it had changed from 3.2 to 3.4. So we're all aware of how contentious this is. It's not easy for anybody. So yeah, it's 3.4. Just a couple of questions, because I don't want to go over it all again. Have we as a council spoken to Thurrock? Because my understanding is, from what I was told at the Essex briefing, is that councils are in either Camp A, which is the 5, or Camp B, which is now the 3.4. Sorry for members of the public, this is quite, all these numbers are very confusing. 3.4, but Thurrock was the only one who hadn't committed to either. And I would just say, because Councillor Bentle, you might want to correct Essex County Council, because they put Rochford in the B plan, which is the 3. And I'm not aware you've ever supported that as such, so it might be that you want to email Councillor Bentley and say, can he correct that, please? So is Thurrock the only one showing us outside, and perhaps we should be there as well then, given what you've said? Have we as a council actually spoken in detail to Thurrock about what they would want? Because I understand they would like 4 unitaries, which obviously I would be massively in favour of a unitary of Rochford, Malden, Brentwood, get the right B, and I think we all would love that, but I've not come across anyone who's really, apart from us, who's really wants that. So I don't know if you've managed to have any conversations with Thurrock about what their ideas of a 4 are. And just finally, can you please release the notes to the leaders' meetings and the LGR5 meetings? I know I've requested it before, and I think they were just being checked just to make sure you were happy with the accuracy of them. That was all. Thank you.
Councillor Belton.
Thank you, Councillor Hoy. I think I'll try and take them in order. I have emailed Councillor Bentley. That was done very swiftly last night. We were supportive in principle of looking at a 3 unitary if it was a 3 unitary that put us in mid-Essex. I made the point at one of the last meetings I was at County Hall that 4 is the preference of Rochford District Council based on informal conversations and email trails that were initially instigated by Councillor McPherson, and Councillor Booth had actually brought it up in a previous full council meeting as well. So I made it clear that 4 would have been our preference, but if there was absolutely no support for a 4, then 3 may be an option that we could support if we were in a mid-Essex banding, and the only one that done that was 3.9. And up until yesterday, 3.9 was very much in the mix. And even until yesterday, I was told it's now 3.4, and we can reference 3.9 as a close second. But I don't want to be a close second, so that was a moot point, quite frankly. So yes, I have made our position clear. In regards to Thurrock, I actually have emailed again the new leader of Thurrock. Thurrock have also had a change of leadership, which has put them in a slightly different position. The councillor there, the leader there, did say that she is quite interested in a 4 unitary. She wasn't happy with the options that she'd seen. What we have been chasing, and Jonathan may have more information on this because he's had meetings as well with chief execs, but we've been chasing what their 4 looks like. Because if their 4 looks like our 4, then potentially we could work together to present that as a business case rather than just a Rochford business case on its own. So I'm absolutely pursuing that as well. Whilst Councillor Bentley might be saying everybody's in one camp or the other, on paper people might appear to be in camps, but even at Monday's meeting, there were still councils there saying, the wording was, we are on the fence still. So people haven't fully committed, because until September, everybody's got to go through a governance process regardless. So whilst we may think we're in one camp or the other, or no camps as the case may be, until everybody's gone through that governance process, everything is in principle. And that's the situation that I think all the councils are in. I stand by the fact that I don't like the models that I've seen. I do believe that every authority is trying to make the best decision for their localised area. The issue with that is what's good for one area subsequently isn't good for another, and that's why there's so much uncertainty about what these final business cases are going to be. In regards to the notes, absolutely they should have been shared. On the 26th of June, I think I responded saying they should be shared with the Grant Thornton and subsequently, so Jonathan can pick that up and make sure that happens. I think that was the gist of your questions.
Very quick follow-up.
Yes,
please.
Councillor.
Can you also confirm that my understanding is that as a council, we can either support only one business case or support no business case. We can't put our name to two business cases. My understanding is we can only support one. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, that's correct. If I may just add on that as well, because I think it's relevant, because this is a question that has come up outside of the chamber as well, is will the business case with the most support, is that the one that will be chosen? And the answer, as we understand it, and I've heard this from all different political spheres at all different levels, the categorical answer is no. Government will make the decision based on what they feel is the best business case. So the only exception to that would have been if Essex could have got to a point where all 15 authorities were in support of one, because then government would have only had one business case to review. We know that isn't going to happen. That is impossible to happen now, based on my view of the meetings. So government will pick what's best for what they see as the best business case.
Thank you, Councillor Belton. Are there any further questions? And Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Chairman. It's Essex County Council have obviously flooded the airwaves with their preferred choice, so they're sort of getting in first. How much influence do they have over the government, or is it everyone's on a level playing field?
I think it would depend who you ask as to how much influence individuals think they have. My firm belief is that business cases will be submitted and the best business case on paper will be the one that's selected. We have people leading groups that are of the same party as the current government. We have people leading groups that represent a massive amount of the population of Essex. One doesn't outweigh the other. It should all be on the data. And if government are good to their word and the information that's come out via letters and the papers and so on, it will be based on the business case, not who shouts the loudest, not who went early, and not who's managed to rally the most support behind them, which is why I'm still comfortable that if our decision is we don't want to support either of the business cases that are being presented, we still have access to all of the data, we've done our own pieces of work, and we will go out and speak to our residents to see what they want. If our residents come back and say they love 3.4 or the 5 model, then that gives us something else to think about. But that certainly isn't the general feedback that I think many of us have had via our communications with our own residents and businesses.
Councillor Booth.
Yeah, thank you for that update. I found it very informative. And just as you said, Councillor Belton, it is quite boring but incredibly important. I was interested in the last comment you made about engaging with our residents. And a lot of us are doing that through informal chats and conversations, our own processes. I'm just wondering, is there a district-wide process for gleaning the views of our residents about preferred models, even though there seems some complexity in those models? But is there a process district-wide, or is it down to us as ward councillors to do our own?
Thank you. So again, engagement's going to be a complicated one. There's currently a consultation out that's being led by Southend, which is talking about the 5 unitary models. They're hoping to get 6,000 responses to that, which is 0.5% of the population, but they say that's a very good outcome from a survey. What I asked was, will we see the data in that relates to Rochford residents? Because if those 6,000 responses don't represent a single person in Rochford, then the information in it is irrelevant to us. Essex will also be putting out a survey at some point, and there's also a couple of others in the background at the moment being done, targeting different demographics. What we will want to do as a council, it's my belief, and again, belief from speaking to leaders and the briefing that we done last week, and this will come up at full council, I'm hoping will be the plan once we finalise the report tomorrow, is we will do a localised, whether it be a survey, a consultation, whatever the model is, because we don't have very long, but we need to hear from our Rochford residents. And what I would like to do is put forward to them the options that are on the table. The 3.4, the 5, and potentially the 4.8, which is the one that members have preferred on paper. and ask them, what do they think? What do they want from local government reorganisation, so that we can actually then feed that into our decision? Because we think people want a certain type of council. We think they want to be aligned to Mid-Essex based on all of the conversations, the social media, the questions that have been asked. But it would be good to have some tangible data that we can then refer back to, because that data then can form part of our business case. And we will still tap into all of the other data that comes forward, because if there's anything that's relevant to Rochford residents, then we absolutely want to be ensuring that we see that, and we have been told we will get those figures.
And I'm just mindful today of the government's announcement that 16 and 17-year-olds will be able to vote in the next election. So I'll be particularly interested, perhaps, what the engagement with secondary schools are, to get some of the older people's views about what preferences they might have as youngsters, because after all, it is about their future as well.
Thank you. We can certainly take that away for consideration. What the 16 and 17 is for the next general election, but I hear the point that we do need to hear what these people want for their future.
Thank you.
Thank you, members. Are we getting a presentation from Jonathan?
The leader council development has covered a lot of ground there, but I'm more than happy to pick up some things. I think one of the questions that's been asked many times, but obviously when we heard from government last week or a few weeks back at the LJ conference regarding elections, obviously something sort of at the moment, the Secretary of State is very clear that there will be all the scheduled elections will take part and will happen next year. Obviously, they haven't had the bids in yet for the devolution priority programme, which includes Essex, so there could be a different decision. But we questioned today, MHCLG comes to all our chief exec meetings every couple of weeks, and they're very much holding the line that there will be elections next year. So obviously, it's quite a difficult environment to not have elections or to have elections. So with regard to that, previously, the county, for example, were asked to vote to decide whether they recommended to government to have election or not. I think there's at least 8 elections in Essex plus the mayor election next year, with some of the districts in thirds, the county, and some of the unitaries as well. So again, we put that back to officials to say that would be quite a difficult one in all these areas, 21 county areas, to ask that question, because what about if you've got half the council saying yes, we'd like to postpone, and half saying we're not? So that's a challenge we've passed back to government to at least explain what would happen if there was a decision. But at the moment, it's very clear by government officials that there is going to be elections next year. On the Thurrock position, with regard to officer-wise, I've pushed the commissioner and the chief exec there, or the senior leadership team, to ask about the configuration. So it might be a configuration that Rochford might want to get behind, but we haven't got that yet. But they are looking to report next week at Essex chief exec, leaders and chief exec meeting on Monday, an update on that. I don't know if that will be the full configuration, but once we know, we can feed back. The last thing on the notes for the meeting, we are pushing that. What's happened, because we've asked more about sharing the minutes, there's been a bit of a discussion around, because it's not just our minutes, those meetings, the 5 unitary and less. I know previously the leader had passed those around, because we've asked now, there's a few discussions with those leaders, whether the full minutes or should be draft minutes, but we have said on Monday at the meeting that Paul Birkinshaw will be there with Councillor Belton about bringing that up as well, to make sure, because some of those minutes and actions we're part of, but we don't actually own on our own. So we just need to make sure that we're agreeing. I don't think anybody's trying not to be transparent. Just want to make sure we have an approach that means that every other council releases to all their councils as well. So it isn't just Rochford releasing to our councils, which we've done previously, but some councils haven't. So just want to make sure there's a consistent approach.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Councillor Cripps.
Thank you, Chair. My questions to the CEO. I'll start with a recent question. Like last day or two, you put out your normal regular note. Am I misinterpreting that? I'm assuming that the government has already accepted the Essex concept of devolution. That's how it read to me. As a way to go, and you explain the process of whatever, but that worried me a little bit, because I'm trying to look at this from a scrutiny and performance point of view, and I only read it late before I came out, so I may well have got it wrong. But the flavour I got was a sort of yeah, that's looking all right, you know. And this is the process we go through, and we haven't even put in the final thing. So I'd just like you to tell me, I think, that no, that I've got it wrong. That wasn't what it said.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Cripps. So, as we probably forgot, or as distant memory, the government released a white paper on devolution. And actually, of the hundreds of pages, 2 pages were on local government reorganisation. Essex obviously put forward an option to look at a mayoral authority for Essex, and obviously been accepted in principle. They had to put further information into government as well and put a proposal back. Government are considering that. They did a consultation. They haven't signed that off 100% rubber stamp, but hopefully in the next day or two there'll be a response for that. There was a consultation with residents in Essex and the other 5 DPP areas. What has happened is the bill has gone through Parliament. So there's about a 300-page bill there. That hasn't changed very much to the white paper, but there is some changes. I was at an event yesterday, actually with a legal firm that was sort of running us through what that looked like. But so the foundations are laid now for devolution in those 6 county areas. The actual final decision, I think, is either happened today or is happening very soon. So my update was more about what's happening rather than what's happened. So, the bill has gone through. I'm pretty sure I didn't say it's 100% agreed, but I'll double check, because what I did ask the team is if it does go through Parliament today to update my newsletter to do that. So, but I haven't heard that as well. So there hasn't been that announcement by the Secretary of State. But sometimes they make an announcement that takes a few minutes or a few hours to go through into the press, and it isn't probably the newsworthy story in the public domain at the moment that the devolution bill's been agreed and Essex are now going to have a mayor next year. But I will update members when that does happen.
Okay, thank you on that one. I think possibly you might want to read it again, because it may need a little bit of explanation. I think it might be misinterpreted, but that's just. I'd like to carry on. I've got other questions for the CEO, if I may. I'm talking to you, Jonathan, because you've been at the beginning of this exercise. Early doors, when bits of paper were coming through, I made a point of reading them all. And at the time, I did get a little bit concerned about some of the general statements, which I may have misinterpreted. But I got the impression that there is no new money coming into this from the government. The money's got to be found basically by us councils. That includes, in another one-liner somewhere, that we've got to somehow absorb the debt in some way, shape or form, which is quite significant. And then, of course, we've got this process. We're going through the front end now with a application, then we'll go mayor, then we'll go ghost phase up to the actual launch and kick-off of the final situation. And the one thing we don't know, because I can't find any numbers on it, is how much this is going to cost us. And I believe that, looking at it from a scrutiny and a performance point of view, there's 2 bits there. I think members will need to know a best estimate of what this is going to cost us, because I think it's going to be extremely high sum of money. And the reason that I've brought it back out, because this is what I was thinking months ago when I first read it. I thought, this sounds expensive, but I couldn't find anywhere that told me what sort of numbers it would be. Certainly millions, but I couldn't get to a number. So I believe I believe all members actually will need it within 6 weeks when we go to the extraordinary meeting. But the Scrutiny Committee in particular, we need a number. We need a best estimate of what this is going to cost the council, because I think it could be quite eye-watering. The other side of it is performance. And if the Scrutiny Committee is going to be over probably a couple of years now, monitoring the scrutiny important of the local government reshuffle, and that'll go in phases. We've got the current phase, which is the proposal, getting to some agreement or not or whatever, and then it goes mayoral and then it's ghost, and there's various phases that this is going to be followed through. You, in your same article today, in words, you started to do the front end of the milestone plan, when these dates were. I think it'd be useful if we had a milestone plan from now through to the final gate where we cross the line and go into that. Purely because it's a visual aid and easier to understand than reading loads of words. So what I'm saying, I guess, is we need a cost and a schedule, which is probably all we're going to get in the time available, because we've only got 6 weeks to this extraordinary full council. So we're not going to be able to do a lot of scrutinising and performance checking in that time. But I think that those two basics are what are going to be needed by all members within the 6 week time frame. We need, I think, a best estimate, and I accept it's going to be really difficult to put a number on it, but I think it will be an order of magnitude that will make people think about that. Because you mentioned, the leader mentioned in the video that you could get to a point where you didn't like any of them, and you explained that we have to put a written explanation in to the pack that goes forward with that. I think the reality of that is the government will just tell us where we're going anyway. They're not going to leave us on our own, still trying to be a tier 2 council surrounded by devolution. So I think not choosing anything gets you the government telling you where you've got to go. And so, Jonathan, is it feasible in these 6 weeks to get some sort of indication of cost, please?
So you made a number of points, Councillor Cripps, and I'll try and pick these up in order. And obviously you mentioned the leader, so the leader might want to come in as well. So with regard to debt, it's obviously one of the key factors that everybody who's been involved with the previous leader and the current leader, debt and the finances. Unfortunately, the system is quite complicated when it comes to financing how it works. We've got a load of work being done around disaggregation and a load of work around aggregation of building it back up. And obviously we've got 3 social care provisions, adult and children's, SEN, sort of that. So actually, even though we've got, to us, considerable budgets compared to the county and the 2 unitaries, very different. So that's the key bit of work. That final detail won't be probably with us until the end of July, but we will have ahead of September to analyse as well. We've got a number of different consultancies working on that. PwC are working on that piece of work. We've also got Grant Thornton, so we've got some independents and some other providers working together. What we want to do is ensure the base data is accurate. Our assumptions in the business cases, when I say all the different business cases, may be different of how we use the money, how we invest the money, what we do with resources. So, but the base data is really key, because government do want one response with the data room and say, this is the data we're all happy with, and then different assumptions we made, whether it's a 3, a 4 or a 5 model. We'll go through there. The debt isn't just Thurrock's as well. I know a lot of people talk about debt, but there's over 3 billion in the system of debt within Essex. And even though considerable, nearly 700 million of debt at Thurrock, of their debt with regard to the debt we all know about. The government have had it written to the system, and including Thurrock, around they will consider looking at that debt and they will look to support. What they haven't said is how much and when. And the challenge is we'll probably put a bid in to government as a system, number of business cases, and we won't know what that support looks like. Surrey at the moment are in the position where they might know soon, but they put their expression of interest business case in with not knowing for Woking as well, because they had the same sort of challenges as Thurrock. What they have said, and today it was confirmed with Mamasuji, they're not looking to cover debt outside of Thurrock and Woking. If there's debt in the system, that has to be dealt with. So the system, the debt of other councils have got, is to be dealt with in the system. They are looking at special measures with regard to Thurrock, for example. The government have given us 7.2 million as a nation, or as England, to deal with this. That works out about 590,000 that we've got to actually support putting the business case together and potentially implementation. They haven't said they would give us different money, but they haven't said they wouldn't as well. That's a drop in the ocean. So that's been supported and supporting all these business cases around the work that's been done centrally. So we've agreed to use that money first centrally. And then if we are backing a 5, a 3 or a 4 and there's other work to be done, that's down to the councils to fund any additional work. At the moment, we're sitting a bit on the fence. So we haven't fully committed, but there is a point where, as a council, it would be wrong to sit in all camps, get all information and not put any money in as well. So there is something that we need to do to consider that as well. On the milestone plan, yes, I'd love one. The government, the Minister Jim McMahon said on a call quite recently that these are hard deadlines the government has set us. What we haven't got back is that these are the hard deadlines back for us as government, for you. So we have asked many times, and we asked again today, it'd be really good to see that milestone plan, because we don't know when the feedback will come. We might be able to estimate it based on Surrey. They probably get feedback in September. But we also brought the implication about elections, because Surrey, the implication isn't as big on them as elections. So if they get an impact in September, that's quite a distance away from elections. They probably won't have elections if it's a shadow authority election in May. The challenge is we might find out in February, March, and we won't know if they're, at the moment, there's a line there'll be elections, but what the impact that could be to elections if they come back and say, in 2028, we're going to do this, and it'll be wrong to have, or it won't be appropriate to elections now. So we have said to them, we really need to know by January, because we need to make a lot of decisions, especially me as returning officer, for both the council areas ahead of that. But again, we haven't heard back those milestones. I wish we had them, like you. We're pushing that every day. And I know on a call with Baroness Taylor as well recently, the same questions were asked. We just haven't got that. Performance, I think you're right. There's definitely a monitored performance. At the moment, we're putting a business case in. If a business case is agreed and all the system gets behind whatever the outcome by government is, and one of the options is the Secretary of State, they did in Cumbria, they actually agreed an option that wasn't even put forward by the council, so the Secretary of State can do his or hers own option as well moving forward. So that could be a different thing. And in Surrey, they took one out straight away. So the option to move with one of the options was including Crawley in Sussex, and they removed that of one of the options. So they're now considering two, but not the option that included Crawley. So that could happen to us as well. So there could be 3 business cases going or more, and they might push one out straight away. But again, I think as long as they fit within the boundaries of Essex, they'll probably consult on all of them, regardless. But performance, you're quite right. If we are going to move forward with a model, whatever that is, I think all councils need to monitor performance and making sure we implement whatever that model is and the impact on the public, because we hope that this is betterment for the public, and that's what people think with a new system. We need to monitor to make sure that is a better system for them. What I can't guarantee, and no one can yet, is whether we can afford to run a new system and the cost, because there is reported figures that councils will cost between 15 and 20 million new councils to set up. So if there's 3 councils, that could be 60 million. If there's 5 councils, that could be 100 million, but we still haven't got the exact details on that. And that's what does the payback look like over a number of years. I think that's picked up most of the bits, but I know you mentioned the leader as well, so the leader might want to come in.
Just go back.
Okay.
I'll finish. Yeah, I mean, in the video, several times, several people mentioned this is the biggest decision we're ever going to make as a district council. So for me, as an ex-project manager, not having a number, the cost, and not having a plan doesn't work. That's mass risk. And I think as a scrutiny and performance outfit, we need to be ringing that bell. And the reason that I brought it back up again, because it was worrying me some time ago, the latest work by Grant Thornton included a universal statement, be it 3, 4 or 5 part unitary. And I'll read the quote to you. They actually went much further in this extra work than they ever did before, because they actually gave an opinion. And I'll quote, "In every scenario, excuse my voice, the unitary with the lowest resilience would be at risk in 2026 and 27 if the maximum gap scenario arises." So there's a clear warning there. I mean, that's even on the starting line, failing on the starting line. And that's why I believe we do need a number. And I deliberately use the phrase best estimate, but I think the members will need to be able to make the decision that we've got to make. I think members are going to need to know that number, albeit qualified and a code sealed that it might this and might that, because I think the order of magnitude will be enough to for people to then understand. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cripps. Councillor Belton.
Thanks very much. I just want to come back on a few points, if I may. first off, just for anyone trying to follow at home and in the room, to be honest, just remembering that devolution and local government reorganisation are two separate things, completely separate things. It's just that they happen to be put together in a white paper and they're happening at the same time, which is making it more complicated. But the fact that devolution may be progressing is aside from the decision that we're taking on local government reorganisation, just because I know that the two things are getting muddied, and certainly for residents it's becoming confusing. In regards to the numbers, totally agree with Councillor Cripps. It would be lovely to know what this is going to cost. The fact of the matter is we don't have a choice. Even if we don't have the numbers presented to us, we still have to make a decision in September what, if anything, we're going to support. Government are forcing our hand on that. So we are pushing for numbers. There are already numbers out there. The issue we have is everyone's interpreting those numbers slightly differently, and everybody's using the assumptions that come next slightly differently. So depending what business case you're trying to support, you might make different assumptions on the data that's provided, which is unhelpful, because in an ideal world, you'd be presented with a set of figures. This is what a unitary authority costs. This is what it will cost to run moving forward. This is your adult and social care cost, because that is the number one cost. Everybody is interpreting that data slightly differently. I have asked our 151 officer, David Dickinson, to number crunch some figures for us, because I was presented with a chart on Monday that looked fantastic, but there was no data behind it. So I've asked for some specifics so that before we take decisions on what is best for this council, whether it be 3, 4 or 5, I think they're really the only options at this stage. 1 and 2, I think, have been ultimately ruled out. We need as much information as we possibly can. Again, just for some extra clarity in terms of cost to this specific council as it stands, because remember, Rochford won't be a council under the new unitary. We will be part of a new unitary. But the cost to this actual council, we've got a budget of 250,000. That was what was agreed previously as part of the budget and the piece of work that was done when we supported the 5 unitary as the last administration. So there is a budget of 250k. There was also a small extra pot of money that was allocated to Essex that was discussed at the Strategy and Finance Committee, but it wasn't clear if that's going to be broken up evenly across councils or if it's just sort of in the pot. But as it stands, the most it's going to cost Rochford is 250 until this council agrees to spend more on it, which at this point we don't need to, and I would touch some wood that we don't need to. Finally, in regards to remaining as a tier 2 authority, that isn't an option. So not supporting a business case doesn't say you can leave Rochford alone, we're just going to sit here without being touched. What it does mean is we will be presenting our own business case that says, for example, we don't support 3 or 5, we think 4 is best for the residents of Rochford, and here is the data that supports it. So if an option was to just write to government and say thanks but no thanks, I think probably we'd get some unity on that and be able to support that, but that is not an option that we are being given. So we will support either the 3, the 5 or our own. My current personal view is that we're likely to be in a position where we're supporting our own business case because everybody has expressed concerns with both the 3 version that's now being presented and the 5 version. It's between a rock and a hard place, in my opinion, so I think we will have to come up with our own. But that is a personal opinion, and I hope that at full council next week we can have a full debate where it would be lovely if we can get to a position where we're at least all moving in the same direction, albeit the devil will be in the detail before we make an actual decision in September. So I'll come back to my very earlier point. Everything is still very much in principle, because we could see something that changes over the next month or so with some other data that makes us sit back and reconsider.
All right, thanks very much. I think we've had a thorough exploration of where we're at, and I know it still looks confusing, like the large document with all the maps, but at least there's some clarity and there's a selection of models, so that's good. Has anyone Oh, you've got one more question from Councillor Booth. Sorry about that.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd like to echo your sentiments. It's been very interesting. I do have real sympathy with Councillor Cribb's pleas there, and also have real understanding of where the two of you are in the situation. Is so much is unknown. But yet we do know it is a government push and a priority, and we can't stick our heads in the sand. Out of the costings, I'm just wondering if 250,000 has been allocated, perhaps a pragmatic response to hearing both sides this evening is just for us as members to have an understanding. I assume some of that 250,000 has already been used in some way, and for us to have an understanding how that 250,000 is being used, regular intervals, how much has been allocated. I think that would give members some reassurance about keeping a financial eye on this.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Booth. So there has been some agreement. So the Grant Thornton work was agreed, obviously, by all group leaders. So that's come out of that. David Dickinson is overseeing that fund. What we can ensure in next week's report, there's a financial implications anyway of an update then in that report as well. There is some asks of the funding. So in the 5 group, they're asking councils to put in £25,000 to support the work that's being done on the 5. A lot of the information would be helpful for us to have. So we haven't said yes, we haven't said no, but it's sort of a commitment of us being there for a number of months, listening, engaging, and to then not put into that pot will be difficult. There hasn't been a big ask from the group less than 5. That might be because the county council have got a bit more money to fund that. But they're the sort of areas of funding. And then outside of that, there is some officer support in the organisation that we've looked to bring someone in from outside to help, because obviously this is being done on top of people's day jobs. So, but I'll make sure that David Dickinson provides an update, and also in the report talks about how we can do regular intervals. Probably budget monitoring will be one of those, or something that's by exception. So we need to bring to council, or we need more funding for that. But probably the budget monitoring is probably the easiest way. Outside of that, or one of the unitary, or one of the local government reorganisation reports would do it then as well.
Yes, thank you. I think that'd be very informative, and I think it would be certainly perhaps judicious to have that in time for the meeting on the 16th of September, just some financial understanding for members, because I think that will reassure members within the chamber.
Have any other members got any questions? And I'd like to thank Mr. Stevenson and Councillor Belton for being full and frank with us and being asked some kind of how long's a piece of string questions, because unfortunately this is a thing that was sprung on us by government. It does give us some thought, though, when we discuss the work plan, because we can include feedback on these costs in the work plan, which we'll discuss at the end of the meeting. I'd like to thank you both very much for coming here tonight and enlightening us where we're at. Thank you. Okay, the next item 7, is road safety around schools. It was formerly called the Safer Streets Update or Initiative, but the Essex Police, I think, have got a programme called that, hence the name was changed. We'll now receive a report from the Director of Community and Health with regards to providing an update following a motion tabled at full council on the 17th of December last year, and a further update to this committee on the 17th of March this year. Greg or Paul Brace will present the report.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. Yep, just to provide a appraisal of the report. As you notice, and as the Chair's pointed out, the change of the name in the report, and this report is before you because of a motion by Councillor Vilma Wilson earlier, or late last year. We have met with that councillor since on a couple of occasions just to talk about the work that we've been undertaking. There are 2 recommendations in this report, but to note, from the consideration of the last work that we did, there are already 2 schemes, or one scheme that has taken place at Westerings Primary School, which was around road closure, and there was a further scheme which is at Reading Primary School, which is a park and stride scheme. The recommendations before you enhance those or take it a little bit further in terms that recommendation 1 is to note the work of the Environment and Climate Officer, Henry Muss, who's been working with Essex County Council on the road closure and healthy street scheme, and to continue to pursue that. That's a national lottery bid that they've put in across 30 schools across Essex. And also recommendation 2 is to our South Essex Parking Partnership, SEP, to report back on how well the scheme with Rail East Primary School has gone later this year. Just to also update members, and the Chair mentioned earlier that we have had a request from a member of public on some questions that they were going to ask but they couldn't attend this evening. Chair, would you like me to read them out?
Yes, Greg, that would be very useful. Thank you.
So the questions that have been appraised from the member of public are: will the council urgently consider including Grove School in the Safer Schools programme? Specifically, will you implement timed road closures and mandatory 20 mile per hour zone on surrounding streets during school drop-off and pick-up times? Secondly, resource allocation. How will you review and increase resources for traffic management to ensure rules like illegal parking and dangerous driving are proactively enforced everywhere without restrictive directives rather than reactive in limited areas? And lastly, resident impact and accountability. What immediate action will you take to stop non-residents illegally blocking driveways and using private property for turning? How will you ensure permit restrictions are fairly enforced to protect residents from abuse and penalties caused by others? So you can see quite long, in-depth questions which we'll be writing back to the member of public, and they will be noted in the next set of minutes so that you'll be aware of what the answers were as well when we respond to those. I'm now going to hand over to the Director, as mentioned, Paul Brace, to comment further. Thank you.
The difficulties are the issues with parking around schools will be happening at every single school in the Rochford district. So I've not come across a school yet that's not having problems with people parking by the school. There's differing responsibilities. There's a police responsibility here. There is a county responsibility. There is a school responsibility. And there is the South Essex Parking Partnership responsibility hanging around this, that quite difficult and challenging, particularly I'm having issues with pavement parking generally, and the restrictions and ability of any agency to do anything about pavement parking is quite difficult depending on how bad it is. So these are quite challenging. So we'll be able to send you a note around about pavement parking. There was a consultation undertaken by a former Conservative government, but the outcome was never released. So the new Minister for Transport is going to release it. They announced that in May. It's not yet been released. So I'm not entirely sure what's in this consultation, but we are looking to see, the question was, should we follow London in terms of there is no pavement parking allowed, and therefore a fixed penalty notice or penalty parking notice can be, parking charge notice can be given for parking on pavements. So that basically was the question. The outcome, I don't know. But this was based not necessarily around schools, it was based around people with disability getting access, safe access from their home to other places. So there's lots of legislation that might help this particular issue, but I think to solve this problem, it would be a multi-agency issue to deal with. So yes, we can see how these schemes work on those two schools and hope to spread them, but it will probably need more of a partnership approach to do that, and that may be something the committee want to consider, to talk to those partners that we would want to work with to make this happen better, because on our own it will be very difficult.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hoy, there's a question. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm glad I came tonight. It's quite fascinating, this meeting. Just I'll start with a comment which possibly is relevant to the previous meeting. This shows, obviously, on page, I haven't got page numbers, page 14, it says the council does not have statutory responsibility for road safety, but can contribute to the delivery of road safety services. Well, it'll be a lot easier once we're a unitary authority and we can work from both areas, and I think that's one of the benefits of it. On just picking up one of the questions first of all about 20 mile an hour limit outside schools, that's certainly something which can be taken through the local highways panel, and that's been done before. So I don't know if it's worth. I'm not sure who the county council will be for that. It's either Councillor Lumley or Councillor Newport, I'd imagine, but it might be worth asking them to take that to the next local highways panel. Although that is, I think it's run out of money at the moment, so it might be a bit of a slow process. That was all. And as you say, blocked driveways. I've got to ask SEP to come down to Holbridge for blocked driveways, and I think every school wants SEP down at all times. Anyway, just moving to the 2 points I was trying to make. One, procedural, I suppose, more than anything, or administrative. On recommendation 2, the Park and Stride was started through the Parking Working Group, and I think, which comes under the Economic Development, Regeneration and Tourism Committee, or did. I think it's now defunct as a working group. Which committee will be administering that? And then I've got another question after that.
The county council is administering that.
Right, okay, thank you. Secondly, it's just another point, because obviously the Park and Stride does give tickets in our car park for free to residents. So although we probably worked out that there isn't a cost, I think it should be referenced under the financial implications. There are free tickets being given out. It may be no net implication as such, because they might not have been used at any. There might be empty spaces in the car park, and I think that was a reason for it. But I think it should be at least referenced.
Have we got an answer?
We'll certainly look at that, Councillor Hoy. I'm not entirely sure. I will check with Henry Musk. I'm not sure which car park they're using, because in some cases it may not be our car park they're using.
Yeah, it's the Castle Road car park.
I have a question, and in respect of Grove Wood School, there is a car park actually in the wood. It's of a set size, but it backs onto what's become a flower meadow. It used to be a playing field, and it's possibly not a lot of cost to enlarge that and make that a Park and Stride. So when we look around the district, have we got the necessary information about the possibilities of expanding those with parking areas? For example, near Fitzwymark, there's the Fairview Park parking area, and there was some discussion about possibly arranging that so you could get more vehicles in it rather than have them all over the road and pavements. And there has been one child who's actually been run down by a vehicle on the crossing near there, which is bad news, because this is one of the main thrusts of this, is to try and improve safety generally, plus of course all the other what we might call anti-social aspects of the school run. So do we have that sort of data, or are we collecting it?
We can certainly work that data up for each school and each location. 25 schools, I think, in the district, so we would want to do that. But as I say, I think it's something we would need to do in partnership with others, because we certainly won't have parking that is under our ownership near every school. So we're going to need to work with county, we need to work with SEP, and then we may need to speak to some shops or private business owners that have space near to be able to do it. But Park and Stride is only one of the options. There are others that we can close roads off, etc. So it would be good to have a conversation with how we should approach this, and we'd really want to try and get Essex to take a bit of a lead around the schools and the schools themselves, because they have direct contact with those parents potentially every day. So I would also call out to SEP, it is quite difficult. I've got a very, very difficult school in Brentwood, which is becoming very dangerous. We do send the SEP officers that share office with us down there, but the abuse is quite high. So the staff are very reluctant to undertake their duties because it's being done under quite considerable duress. So that's something else we need to consider, why some officers don't necessarily want to put their head in the fire every single day with parents that are not happy about being pulled up or tickets being served for parking on double yellow lines. So it's a very difficult subject matter to solve easily. Even by putting park and stride, there will be parents that will not be happy with that because they need to be somewhere else quicker.
All right, thank you very much. We've got Councillor FD and then Councillor Constable. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Especially in Rochford, there seems to be a failing of bureaucracy, where in Kes, I think I've got the figures correct, that about a third of the pupils come from Southend, go to Kes, and Essex do not supply buses to bus the kids in from Southend because it's a unitary, not part of Essex. So the parents need to drive the kids in to the school, and that causes absolute havoc around Rochford. So is there some way we can sort this bureaucracy out, or have we got to wait for local government reform? Come back, thanks.
I'll be more than happy to talk to Southend about it. So there will be another partner that we'll have to get in the room to talk to about it. It's causing them havoc as well, to be fair.
Councillor Constable, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. It's on the same lines of Rochford. I'm on the Ashington Road, and I've got 5 schools on the Ashington Road. And if you go a bit further down Greenswood Lane, you've got Greenswood School as well. There are parking situations in. Most of the Ashington Road is now a clearway, but it's not enforced. Nobody enforces the parking. Like you say, nobody enforces the parking on the pavement, nobody enforces the yellow lines, and nobody enforces the clearway, which is there for a morning for a reason. If there was 20-mile-an-hour speed limits, I doubt that it would actually be obeyed, because a lot of this comes under the police, and they don't enforce any of those rules. So it's something we need to take as a council to the police or through the Crime Commissioner or somebody and get them to actually do their jobs. Because there's been enough incidents on the Ashington Road with children being hit or knocked over or near misses, and it's people driving. So a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit would be quite good during school times, which would be practically the whole of the Ashington Road. But it's got to be enforced by the authorities. And if you say you've got a situation where SEP won't go down there because they're getting abused, then maybe we should be putting more pressure on the police to actually do their job.
Yes, thanks for that observation. I have to say I agree with you. But they will probably say it's resourcing for them as well. You know, there's an underlying theme here, is resources for this. And that is the problem. I noticed this national lottery bid is an option, which is in the recommendation, and there's some papers about that, which is quite interesting. I did discuss with a fellow ward councillor, we're getting our £900, you know. What we could do with that, I've no idea. So, probably a couple of signs or something, I don't know. We're looking for something to invest our money in there. So we go from there. Has anyone else got a question? Because we can move on to the recommendations. Councillor Booth.
So Westerings is in the ward I represent, and it's my understanding that it's working quite well closing off the road, but there are issues around the quality of the pavement for the children. Now, again, I'm right in understanding that's not our responsibility, that's county responsibility. So, yes, yeah. So that is something that we can't do, but we could put pressure on others to do that. Then I also noticed that an additional bid has gone in to the National Lottery for Healthy Streets campaign, and 30 schools in Essex. That's been signed off. So are any of those 30 schools part of our 25 schools in Rochford? Do we know that information?
I'll confirm Westerings is one of them. I don't know about the others. I haven't got that information, but I can find out.
So I think West Rings was in the first tranche. I think there's been a second application, and there might be a second tranche. So it'd be interesting to know if any of them are in those 30, and then what we can do to support those head teachers and chairs of governors, and indeed the parents. Because is it about enforcement or is it about an education? I think it's a little bit of both, isn't it? It's about information, education, children getting impassioned about the climate, telling their mum and dads not to drive. It's all those kind of things. I think it's a multi-layered response that we need. How easy that is beyond my capabilities. Okay.
Right, thank you. There's no other. Is there another question? Councillor F, did you have a second? Oh no. Okay. Well, I think we've had a good presentation on this. We have got 2 recommendations. Recommendation 1 is to note that the Environment and Climate Officer continues to liaise with Essex County Council over the Healthy Streets campaign and the progress of their national lottery bid, and to identify other schools in the Rochford district who would benefit from the Healthy Street intervention. And recommendation 2 is that the South Essex Parking Partnership be asked to provide a report on the outcomes following the trial of the Park and Stride scheme at Rayleigh Primary School, to be presented at a future committee, which we can incorporate in the work plan once we get the lie of the land there. Are members willing to take the 2 recommendations together? Sorry. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's getting late. Are we noting recommendation 1? Noted. Thank you. No, it's only recommendation 2 then. We can vote with a show of hands, but first of all, I'll propose the recommendation. Seconder? Councillor FD seconded it. We can now vote with a show of hands. Those for? Well, it looks to be unanimous. So thank you. Now we can move on to item 8, which is the work programme. We now consider the committee's work programme for 2025-26. Do members have any questions on this item? We have got a schedule, and I had a meeting, our Teams meeting, and made some notes about other issues to possibly include in the work programme. So, Councillor Ifty.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to add. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to add something to the work programme, which is what you mentioned earlier, the Rochford Priority Fund, the £900 the councillors will be getting. It'd be good to do a review probably in the January committee to how that's gone and how the money's been spent, because the end of the application is the 31st, I think, of October. So that should give it time to be spent and allocated. We can see if it's worth doing next year and what outcomes.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. Do the members agree with that suggestion that we include in the work plan the outcome of the fund? I'm actually looking forward to trying to use it, which would be quite interesting. Are there any other suggestions for the work plan? Councillor Hoy?
Sorry, it's just to expand on perhaps one that's in there already, because there's a continual one-team transformation. I think that's probably in every meeting. This has been raised, I think, by Councillor Stuart Wilson before. I have to use the first names because there's so many Wilsons. Within the one-team transformation programme, obviously, it's almost certain that there will be no Rochford District Council by 2028. And should we or can we include in the one-team transformation programme, when we're looking at that, to see what work needs to be done to disaggregate ourselves from Brentwood Council? Because I don't believe that in the original agreement, apart from one of us leaving or the other one leaving, and I think it probably needs to be looked at to see how that can be done properly.
Well, it's an interesting question. I think we'll have to get a response from the officers on that, on the practicalities of it.
I'm happy for that to be taken away and dealt with outside the meeting. I think that's probably.
Oh yeah,
helpful,
yeah,
I think
yeah.
it
If we can
needs
get
to be looked at.
an update from the one team, and that would be most helpful. So we'll get that sorted out, and then we can email members with the outcome of that. Yeah, thank you. One thing I have got for the work plan in October, we have an item which is engagement with London Southend Airport. And I've made the note here that we've got the agreement that Laurie Edmonds from the airport will attend the meeting. That was from our Teams meeting, wasn't it? Oh, sorry, it's an officer. Laurie Edmonds, sorry, doesn't say that. They're going to invite representatives from Southend Airport regarding their current ambitions and the future priorities. So basically, Laurie can attend that meeting in the 2nd of October. And Kim Anderson has noted the other item, which is a dementia working group, which is also listed for October. And Councillor Brewer wants to make a comment on that, no doubt. That's why I'm looking at her.
I'm sorry, I seem to be on one subject only, don't I? Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think perhaps if I also look towards Paul, that's fine, but we haven't had a meeting since we changed in May. There's not been one set, and to my knowledge, there aren't any in the next month or two being posted. I have questioned several things, but I've not had any reply about these. So to get something ready by October, we actually need to have a meeting. I think that's my comment. Sorry, I didn't realise the sound. Yes, it is. Sorry.
Okay, well, I can make some moves to see if we can arrange that. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And the other item in October is an overview of the asset and development activity. And originally, I was told we could get something on the Millhorn Civic Suite, but we decided that that's probably best in January. And what we need to know is on the run-up to it is some form of update on the Freight House in October. So we need to bring that forward. So if that's okay. And the other thing we can bring forward into October, which is the winter fuel allowance. Obviously, the government has now changed the goalposts with that and set an income level of 35. Anyone under 35,000 a year can be in receipt of it. So it's not such a big problem as it was before, when the whole thing was virtually cancelled for most people. In January, we've got another update in the One Team Transformation Programme. That could be a good idea to get some financial figures that Councillor Crisp's asked about. Yeah, so we'll add that so we can have a report or update on the costs of LGR. So that's okay. And we also have another item in January, which is the NHS health funding. I think that's to do with the money that gets put aside for the NHS that they never seem to get in touch with or do anything with it. Yeah, the 106 money. So we need to get that in. Yeah, that's 106 funding money. Yeah, Councillor Booth.
Yeah, and I think in light of what Councillor Constable said, it might be quite good to see if we can call the police to this meeting, not necessarily 999. I'm not too sure if they will attend, but we can at least ask around the response to road safety around schools.
It's an excellent suggestion. Are members okay about that? Yeah, we'll invite the police about road safety around schools.
And then while we're on road safety, perhaps then to do the SEP Raleigh primary review to see how that's going as well, because it says we're going to do it in the recommendation. So let's have a look at it while we're thinking about that issue that evening.
Yeah, that could be quite timely, actually, just at the beginning of the year. That's quite useful. Councillor Efty?
We're talking about 106, Chairman. Might be worth having a review of all the 106 that's been outstanding. So I think we had last year. I think there was a review of what was outstanding, who's still got to claim, and where it's being spent.
Okay.
So it might be worth having an update.
We'll see if we can fit that one in January as well, then.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Because we don't want to lose any of that money. Yeah. So we've got the Rochford Fund outcomes. We've already discussed that. We've got the one in March. We have the one team transformation programme, which is the fourth quarter, an annual report. And I've also included here, because we're discussing this, a proper freight house update. By that time, there should have been quite a bit going on at the freight house. So we're rather keen that doesn't founder. We want that open and working, which should be really useful. And the other item at the moment for March is a review of the outside bodies. We've got all these outside bodies that we have liaison with. So we get another review of those. And that's about it at the moment, unless anyone else has got anything else they want to raise.
I just wondered if it'd be judicious to do a review of the leisure contract again after a year of operation, perhaps with some answers to some of those questions that members put to them tonight, rather than a generic presentation. Is that if we actually send some questions we'd like answers to beforehand, in terms of dementia, school children, everything else? Yep.
The performance report goes to the relevant committee, so the performance is measured by the committee. So if there's anything that the committee would like you to have a look at that they're not happy with, then otherwise we'll be doing it twice. So, but we can share that performance report. Obviously, you'll see it as councillors.
What, to this committee?
It goes to the Communities Committee.
Right. Okay. So I think it'd be interesting for this Scrutiny Committee perhaps to have a look at that.
We'll have a chat of it outside the
Yeah.
box. We don't want to do it twice.
No, don't need to do it twice, but we're here to scrutinise.
With the update on the work of scrutiny committees and the committee system, because you've just heard how that committee is going to deal with that, the difference is now, and there is have we all been shared with a publication about from local government about scrutiny committees and the committee system? Normally, if you've got a cabinet system, you're holding them to account. When you've got the committee system, you get scrutiny within the committee system. So what we have to avoid is too much scrutinising scrutineers, if you look at it that way. The suggestion made to me by the officers was that this committee could look at issues that appear to be affecting the residents in the area that may be in the press, and also look at issues which some of the committees might find difficult to fit into their work plans, that they have concerns about. And that can spill over into this committee to do a bit of work around it. So this is the difference. If you read if you haven't got this already, there's a couple of publications about the role of scrutiny in committee systems. If you haven't got it, I'll arrange to every member to get it sent to them. There's one called The Long View, isn't it? And it is a long view as well. So this is where we're at. So hence this business of the resident on the Safer Schools initiative, and actually covering this idea of putting his questions in the minutes, because he couldn't make it tonight. But it's an important issue, and we wouldn't want anything to happen around that school where something could be done in the future to actually reduce risk for the children and residents. Councillor Efty.
Just one more recommendation, Mr. Chairman. Leader's not going to be very happy with me, but maybe we should have her as a standing item to give us an update on anything that's relevant. We can always, if there's nothing relevant, we can always say not to come, but at least you know she's got a standing item.
In October, it's only early October though.
Yeah,
September. Perhaps if we had her in, we invited the leader in January.
Yeah, that sounds.
We've got the lie of the land then, and what exactly is being put forward. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, we should invite the leader back. And also, this scrutiny committee does give a public view, which is slightly different from the viewing committee, which is really an oversight issue, although we've dropped that word off of the name of the committee now, but I thought which was quite good. But there we are. So yeah, we'll invite the leader back on LGR and mainly LGR actually. Devolution is just something that is going to happen anyway with the mayor's office, so we can go from there. Yeah. Okay, we can add that in January. That's good. It makes this look a little fuller now. It looks like it's more vibrant. Thank you. Anyone else got any other points? And otherwise we can, I think that's it. We can close the meeting. And thanks for all your input. Very good. Thank you. And Councillor Hoy as well. Thank you.